So it was that Aaron, Baron and Yarchuk stood guard beside the dead man's remains. Frozen face, high graceful forehead, narrow nose, beard like snow. Kropotkin lay there like a sleeping wizard, while all around him angry voices were whispering that Checker was violating Cameron's promises, that the hunger strike had been voted in jails, and that so-and-so and so-and-so had just been arrested. The lengthy negotiations to get permission for a black flag and a burial oration sent a wave of anger through the crowd. The long procession, surrounded by students making a chain of linked hands, set off to the cemetery, accompanied by singing choirs who walked behind black flags, bearing inscriptions in denunciation of all tyranny. At the cemetery, in the transparent sunlight of winter, a grave had been opened under a silvery birch. The delegate from the Bolshevik Central Committee spoke in conciliatory terms. And this bit is always fantastic, I think. An Aaron Baron, arrested in Ukraine due to return that evening to a prison from which he would never again emerge, lifted his emaciated, bearded, gold-spected profile to cry relentless protests against the new despotism, the butchers at work in their cellars, the dishonour shed upon socialism, the official violence was trampling the revolution underfoot. Fearless and impetuous, he seemed to be sowing the seeds of new tempests. And sure enough, 18 days after Kropotkin's funeral, Kronstadt erupted in rebellion. So, yeah, so maybe before next week, if we just have a minute to think about that.
Ian's stolen some of the lines I was going to use, so my speech will probably be a bit shorter. As we go through life, we do discover that that the heroes we have, they all end up with, as they say, feet of clay. No one's perfect, and that's what makes them human, because of their imperfection, and that's fine. And with Kropotkin, his imperfection was that because he believed so strongly in France being the cradle of revolution, he took the side of France against what he saw as Prussian militarism, and in so doing he justified the dreadful slaughter of the First World War. Well, that's one of his imperfections. Some people might say that his overwhelming optimism is something to be criticised. Well, I put it to you, and that in this epoch of pessimism, we need that sort of optimism again to galvanise our movement. Ian mentioned the funeral of Kropotkin and those moving words from Victor Serge. There exists a movie of Kropotkin's funeral, and you see thousands of people defiling through the street in the snow and the ice, and you see Aaron Baron standing by the grave denouncing the butchers, the Bolshevik butchers, and who were those who have betrayed socialism. Now, the ice and the snow have started to melt. Leninism is melting away. Now is the time to reaffirm the essential tenets of real socialism, of libertarian socialism. And it's our task, and it is indeed our duty, to try to rebuild an anarchist movement in this country, inspired with the optimism of Kropotkin. Shall I leave it there?
No, keep going.
All right. The other thing about Kropotkin is his generosity, and his discovery of the tenets of mutual aid in his book. He pointed out how, in the main, animal species and humans, one of the main things that drive them, that keep them going, that preserve them and develop them, is the theory of mutual aid. And that's another thing that we have to develop in our movement, that we support each other with mutual aid and solidarity. The other thing is, of course, is the way he developed and brought out the ideas of anarchist communism with the First International. These ideas, he didn't invent anarchist communism. They came out of the workers' movement, out of the First International. There's a long gestation. But he was one of those who helped define those ideas on which we base our present movement. So I'd like to finish there and look at those values and say that's what we need to do. Remember what Kropotkin stood for, remember what the old movement stood for, and try to, with all the insights of the present, try to re-galvanise that movement and make it a force to be reckoned with in these dreadful times.
Yeah.
Yeah.